Just done something a bit wrong there. Just correcting it. We're going to see whether I get my stream online. Yeah, there we are. Just a couple more clicks. And we should be there. Connection. Okay, hi everyone, looks like we're started. So this is going to be the final stream of the Sufi because I guess I'm not going to stay up to see game 100. I might well have done if the match had been really close, but well, somehow, as we all know, oops, good lord, didn't want that one, I wanted this one. Wait a minute. As we all know, whack, switch that one off. There we are. As we all know, yeah, score is after 98 games, it's 55 to Stockfish, 43 to Leela, 19 wins to 7. And yeah, that's a pretty convincing score. And well, we're going to see. I mean, you've seen from the opening here that this is a pretty ropey opening for black. Actually, it's quite funny because it's really the opening that I think most beginners play when they play 1d4 d5 and then face 2c4 for the first time. I get this lots and lots in simuls and stuff like that. So quite funny to see it played by the two strongest chess playing entities on this planet, maybe even in the universe. So yeah, this is quite I mean, essentially white just gets a double pawn center for not very much. I mean, this is quite as always, the engines have managed to make it quite thrilling really with this this h4 h6 d5 e6 and then Stockfish throwing in a pawn sacrifice here just to get some activity. Yeah, very interesting. Yeah, probably not quite enough for the pawn, but yeah, enough to cause confusion. And yeah, at the current moment, it looks like well, it's going to be a long one, isn't it? But Stockfish seems to be yeah, organised enough to keep Leela at bay for the moment. So yeah, we're going to see how that goes. But I mean, obviously, yeah, it can only be either a win for Leela or a draw. And then we'll see how Stockfish handles that in the reverse. See whether Stockfish can make this score even more beautiful for itself, or whether plus 12 will be the limit. So yeah, I thought though that might be quite nice just to go through what has happened in the past games, because that has been quite thrilling in actual fact. I mean, we've had these periods in the match where you know, we've just had a crazy run of victories, and then we've had a run of draws. But somehow, yeah, just in the past, yeah, in the past few days, I think we've really been spoiled for dramatic and decisive games. Obviously, we had a look at this this English game, which was yeah, really rather crazy. Let's have a look at this gorgeous position again from that we reached. It was yeah, a lovely crazy game. I mean, that was really cool. And then afterwards we got this this Yugoslav attack, this dragon, where yeah, it was simply that Leela very early gave up a pawn with a5, and then basically, you know, giving up the pawn like that sort of distracts the you know, the white pieces. They're not going to get at the king anymore, but it's a pawn, you know. And then the question was, you know, can Leela keep Stockfish at bay with activity, or you know, is that pawn going to tell? And in fact, you know, I was looking at it, and I think the more and more I analysed during the stream, the more I felt that, oh, this is all going to go wrong. And yeah, and it did. I mean, Stockfish just crept up and then all of a sudden started striking, started hitting at the king side, and it all fell apart. And yeah, I mean, as always, the incredible thing in all these lines, and that I'm always struck with, is that we've got an assessment here of 3.19, whereas material is just equal. I mean, it is astonishing, that the engines can sort of see past, just the material, and assess the remaining, the remaining activity as worth plus 3.19. But yeah, I mean, if Stockfish says something like this, then it's just 100% true, and you're not quite sure how or why, but somehow all of its pieces seem to be able to come in. I mean, this move's gorgeous. Queen c1, threatening queen h6, and then just a quiet move a3, and then eventually the pawn on a4 will fall, the pawn on e5 will fall, and it's just the end of the story. I mean, just incredible. And I mean, this sort of stuff is not really possible for a human to emulate. This is just engines playing with unbelievable precision, and incredible judgment to see that I haven't won a pawn, but I'm +3 and now +5. Still, material is equal, and we've moved to +5 for Stockfish and +7 for Leela. I mean, those things are very difficult for a human ever to think of emulating in any way. But that was quite, I mean, that was a bit of a painful loss for Leela, especially as Leela had great chances in the previous game. But I mean, I guess things were, we're going to get a little worse really after that for Leela. These were, I guess, fairly uneventful games. This was one of my openings. So I got this from a very funny book by Alexander Ipatov, which was Unconventional Approaches with Black, and comes up with all sorts of strange stuff. I mean, what I really thought about this position, the evals weren't great, the exit evaluations. I think mine were probably even a little bit lower than this, but what you get with these positions is that this knight goes back to d6, and then the bishop's blocked in by the pawn on d5. The pawn on d7 can't move, so the knight has to go to a6, and you can play a3 and b4 to stop it. And very easy for all these pieces to get a real logjam of pieces. Knight b8, bishop b7, knight d6. So I thought there was quite a bit of strategic risk to the line, and I thought that might be more important than the slightly lower evals. Not quite sure how that worked out for me. I mean, Leela got a small edge, but Stockfish held it fairly comfortably, I think. I thought that Stockfish was getting a pretty serious initiative at some stage. Certainly around here, because I mean, this was kind of the scenario that I was thinking about. I mean, this knight's blocked in by the pawn on b4, this bishop's restricted, and actually here Stockfish spent ages on the move g4, which looked like quite a promising pawn sacrifice. Getting the queen, the rook goes to g3, and then the pieces all start targeting this king. But sort of Stockfish thought for ages and ages, and then just played this rather quiet move, king g2. Obviously felt that g4 was not quite it, and then the game just meandered on to a draw. So yeah, I mean, it wasn't. I don't know, and I think I can assume that that this one was not a successful experiment on my part. That I didn't guess properly how good it was, and well, in these there's a number of openings that I chose where I was betting against the evaluation of the machines really, and some of them worked out, and some of them worked out a little less well. Yeah, now we get to the really quite dramatic final period of the match, which obviously was quite painful for Leela. Yeah, I'm a bit surprised in a way. I think some of these openings were quite tricky, I'd say. Definitely complicated strategically, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, not really. I wouldn't have said that they favoured Stockfish particularly more than Leela. But somehow it turned out like that. I mean, Leela played a fantastic game here. in this King's Indian position from Jeroen, King's Indian position from Jeroen, and yeah, I mean when this came on the board, Gawain Jones, English Grandmaster, very big King's Indian expert, he said, "Ooh, Rook F6 is dodgy," so just replied, "Well, then it's perfect for the TCEC," and yeah, I mean all the King's Indian players at this stage. The black King's Indian players, the experts, there was Gawain, but also Maxime Lagarde from France as well. Not Vachi Lagrave, but Lagarde, another 2600 player. And they were all very, very pessimistic for black here. Because as soon as black loses the light square bishop in the King's Indian, kingside attacks get really difficult. Because you want to play g3. Let me just grab this, because I can talk about things for a while, but sometimes it's nice just to show it on the board. Edit, paste PGN, import, bishop a6, rook a6. Yeah, I mean, what black, kind of wants to do often is to play g3, and then just do something random. Then white plays h3, to try and block that, and then you would just want to organize a sacrifice on h3 to break through. And the light square bishop is just the ideal piece for doing that. And if you don't have it, then white has so much better chances of organizing a really unbreakable defense on the king side. So losing your light square bishop in the King's Indian in these structures is thought to be a really bad thing. And of course, Leela did that beautifully, really, with playing c6 and then bishop a6. But of course, this move b takes a6 from Stockfish was a little bit weird, certainly giving white some free entry channels into the position. Yeah, unfortunately, Leela's conversion was not particularly convincing, and in fact, it seemed like all of a sudden Stockfish just went bananas, because this position had been going round and round and round, and you sort of wondered, yeah, is Leela really going to find something? And yeah, and all of a sudden Stockfish just starts opening things up lots, and this one as well with a5, and all of a sudden white's made more progress through black's 3 or 4 moves than could ever have dreamed of, really. So yeah, that was a strange episode, and yeah, Leela won quite comfortably after that, and that looked pretty good. The reverse game was astonishing, and yeah, I do hope that I can bring myself to spend some serious time on it, because it's super intriguing. Just take my board back over, f4. I'm getting better at it. Sufi's nearly over, and I'm finally getting competent at doing this. Not Leela-0. I don't always seem to get the PGN. Come on, give me the PGN. Game, new game, paste PGN. Stockfish, that's the one. Yeah, because Stockfish played this move. Well, it played a6. Leela replied with b6, which I think everyone in the chat, and including me, thought that's probably the best way to reply to it. And then Stockfish did this complete closure of the position. And yeah, this was the really big question. I mean, the point was Stockfish's evaluation went up to plus 2.3 or something, and you're just really thinking, especially as a human player, well, aren't we just completely blocked here? And it's very interesting. I mean, h4 is the most obvious thing. I mean, if you can do this and get away with it, then it is just a draw. What were the engines afraid of? Now, that's a very difficult question to do, because Laurel ran a 30-minute game with Stockfish White against Serres, and Stockfish got absolutely nowhere. Just achieved absolutely nothing. So that is quite, pardon me, that is quite mysterious. I mean, what I was thinking in terms of, what would be your breakthroughs? Well, you've got two. You could try and break through against the d6 e5 pawn, and that would involve having knights on d3 and c4, attacking the pawn on e5. Or you can attack these. And of course, you've got complete freedom to do what you want and swap around. So maybe you've even got some clever stuff where you can, switch from one to the other and outflank the black pieces. But what I was thinking in terms of my attacking, and I'm just going to make stupid moves for black, so don't worry about it too much, would be to play, let's say h3, start off with king h1. So my one knight's going to come to b5. Then what I'm going to do is, I'm not doing this particularly efficiently, but I'm going to bring my other knight. Now it might go to c4, it might go to it could go to here, or I could just put it onto c3, and I'll show you why I would do that. I mean, obviously in all these, basically black can't do very much at all. So he could probably put his pieces better, but slightly better. But I'll just show you the plan like this. So I go rook a2. Well, let's put the knight on g6. I go rook a1. Let's maybe put the rook on h7 like this. I go bishop e1, king h8, bishop f2, king g8, queen d1, king h8, queen g1. So this is the setup that you're visualizing, and that's probably that's one of the advantages of being human, that you can just see this in your mind's eye without needing any variations. And then the idea is just to go knight a7, rook a7, knight b5, rook a8, and well, probably knight c7 already is good, but I'll go a7. And then the idea is that I'm going knight takes c7, queen c7, probably, well, okay, let's say bishop b6 then, queen e7 and b5. And I'm just going to bring the bishop back and then go b6, b7. And it's conceivable that this is just, this might actually just be a winning line. Now I might have to put my rooks a little bit better. Maybe I need my rook on a4 to protect here, just to cover against knight takes c4 threat, something like that. I mean, it's not, I haven't worked this out precisely, but that would be one, very easy way to break through. The other idea could be that you play the knight to d2, like this, knight c4, and then you just break like this. Probably you play b5 next, and then afterwards you break with knight b6 and here. And I think it's probably quite problematical to actually stop this, So and then the only question is, can black do some sort of counterplay like this and this, and break things through? So I probably want to have a rook on a3 or a4 just to stop that. But it looks it has the feel of probably enough. And the other idea that you could do with white would be to play something like knight b5, knight a3, knight c4, knight d3, bishop b2, rook a2, maybe, I don't know, rook h7, king h7, queen a1. You could try and break through like this as well. That would also be possible, and with sacks on e5. I'm less wowed about it, but could also be quite decent as well. So I think my feeling is that h4 is probably losing for black long term, and that white can, and that maybe white's got some really clever way to combine all the different threats and outflank black. HG, just looking at it, I sort of thought, well, getting all these pieces, organizing this sack now is a lot more difficult because this pawn's weak. This counterplay with f3 is possible. I've got some play along the h file. I don't think that this is really that this play against the queen side is going to work, or it's going to be much more fraught if it happens. But I still thought that was probably the best plan. It did catch me by surprise somewhat that we ended up in this sort of situation with white playing h4. Certainly in my naivety, I'd assumed that where are we? Well, I'd assumed first of all that this knight would always have to stay on g6. I mean, that was one of the things, and I also assumed that I'd always be able to even just be able to block stuff. maybe just for example, let's just play a few moves here. Rook h1, add variation, maybe knight f6. Let's get the old knight across there. There's a bit of a trip to do it. Queen b1, let's do it. Knight g8, knight d3, bishop f6, here, knight here, there, knight h4. I sort of assumed that you'd always have enough pieces to sort of cover this somehow, and be able to even to sacrifice this rook, and then you're just get something like this, and I'm blocking like this. What I imagine is that it's probably maybe it just wasn't possible, for example, to hold this pawn properly and also hold this properly. I don't know, I'm not sure, but for example, maybe bishop f6 is wrong, but maybe I go knight e7 here, and I go knight h4, and this is the sort of thing that you sort of think, I don't really understand how it's possible to break through, because after takes, I'll just move another knight on there and then a knight onto h4. And how on earth are you breaking through? I mean, it has to be on this side then, but on the other hand, if you start giving up knights, you've got less attack on the queen side. So I really don't know about this one. What I do know is that the way that Leela put its pieces like this, losing control of the h4 pawn, that can't possibly be right. I mean, it's never ever going to work. So, but yeah, I mean, I don't know whether my plan of defense was better, or my plan, I'd say the human plan of defense, because I don't think it's something that only I could think of. I think lots of people in the chat were thinking the same there. So it's a strange one. It's a really strange one, but it is pretty clear that if White gets this and gets h4 in, then this is always going to be a huge problem. I mean, you've got no mobility at all on this side. So, any opening of the position is fatal. I mean, that's why you're sacrificing even two pieces on the queen side to open up the position. So, yeah, really strange choices from Leela there, from that point of view, not surprising that Leela lost that game. But a strange one there. It just seems you do have the feeling that somehow, well, actually, almost both engines, Stockfish obviously way less than Leela, but both engines have problems not ruining their positions when they're waiting, whereas a human would just find a good structure and go king h8, g7, h8. Somehow, certainly Leela just seems to halfway through get dissatisfied with its structure and just start shuffling, kind of randomly, really. And I think we saw that very clearly in the in another game that it lost, which was this one, Taimanov King's Indian, which is because again here, at this stage. Knight cd6, basically Leela's got some sort of decent structure. I'm not even sure quite why a4 was played, which felt like quite a loosening move. But okay, fine, we'll have that. But after here, and we get to g7, I mean, you just sort of say, well, wait and see what happens. You can't do anything anymore. Just have to wait and see what happens, and that might not be a good thing, but at least then the engines have to work it out with steadily decreasing time. But instead, what Leela did was come up with these really weird maneuvers where first of all it moves the knight from e8 then to f6, and then moves the knight back to d6, and then moves it all the way over to a5. I mean, this can never be good. It can never be good to have a knight on a5 in this position. It's just simply impossible. And there is no way that a knight on a5 is contributing half as much to black's position as on d6. So it's just really, really weird. And then the whole position seems to collapse. The a4 pawn seems to be lost, and you're really looking at it and you don't understand at all what's happening there. And often you don't understand what's happening because it's just above your understanding. But I don't know. This one I don't have that feeling. I just have the feeling this is just not understandable at all, basically. these tactics are very nice, of course, just to finish it off. But there's definitely something, yeah, something that, well, either something that you really need to understand better, or that that the engines need to explain better to you, or really there's, you know, I mean, I think at the very least, you know, by playing these moves like the knight over to a5, you're making it much easier for white to win, you know, whereas yeah, the proof of beating this position is, I think, much harder than the proof of beating the knight on a5. You know, even if it's possible, which it might well be. You know, but even if it is possible, then you know, stick with the best defensive structure, and then you know, and then we'll see what happens. But you know, a completely loosened defensive structure like this is just not going to hold. Not with all these pawns and everything. So that's really that was really quite interesting, and yeah, you know, I guess a possible weakness of Leela just in defending positions. It's done some extraordinary things with pawn down and sacrifices, but also it's done some things where waiting doesn't seem to have worked very well. And but this one's very interesting. I mean, it will be very. I'm probably going to have to in these sort of circumstances. You know, when you're trying to work out whether a position like this is won or drawn. A position like this rather is won or drawn. Then the simplest thing is to play it against the engine. You know, I just have to play a number of training games against the engine and then just see. Yeah, can I hold it with black, or you know, can I do I always lose, you know, that sort of thing, and then you'll see. Yeah, because it's sometimes a little bit tough to get the engines to play the way that you want them to play. You know, that's quite difficult. So yeah, that's going to be an interesting one. And then the next one was quite interesting. It was my opening there. And wow, I've got 86,000 channel points after that last game. Incredible. So yeah, this opening was actually analysed quite seriously in a book by Hari Krishna. So the world number, I don't know, 20. Very strong player from India, and he analysed this line, and basically it's an attempt from black to avoid an exchange French structure after he takes d5 and keeps some light in the position. So yeah, it seemed vaguely interesting, and I thought that Leela and Stockfish seemed to produce quite interesting games in there, and Komodo as well actually. So I thought that it would be worth it. Book eval is quite high, so obviously, you know, the engines both feel that the we're on the edge there, but they seem to do a decent job. I mean, I haven't seen this plan very much in human games really, but it seems like a decent one. Wasting a lot of time, which feels risky with the you know, the possibility of going c4 and d5. But actually, in the games that I ran with Komodo, c4, queen e4, queen b3, and then d5 later was happening. But yeah, that break wasn't achieving as much as you'd think. So bishop a3, queen a5, c4, knight c6, queen b3, castles, c3 protecting the pawn on d4. Queen a6, looking to try and get some control with knight a5, bishop b4, and then this move, which was just simply shocking, g5. Let me get the PGM, and then switch to this. So that was actually simply quite shocking, I have to say. And funnily enough, I'd had this position multiple times in my test games. This position, and but actually each time the engines have done completely different things. I think there was rook g8 was a move. I think e5 immediately had been played as well. So there were quite a few things, but every time, you know, white seemed to be you know, on top but not clearly, you know. So yeah, it seemed like a good one for the Sufi. But this g5 was absolutely astonishing. What is the idea? Well, there's a sort of a multitude of ideas in there, really. So, First of all, g5 to g4. After g5, I mean g4 is a threat. You're simply trying to disrupt the white position. And yeah, you look at it here and you don't really see. It's not very obvious how you really get at white's position here and force him to do stuff. But yeah, g5 is that move to get in g4. I think I said rook hg8. I think even h6 was looked at by my engine. So, but this was I'd never seen this this radical move before. When the knight takes on g5, well, we go rook g8. So we're avoiding the old move knight f7 here. So rook g8, knight f7. I haven't actually worked out what precisely the idea was against that, but I'm assuming that the idea was to do something like knight e4. We've got the threat of knight d2, and my queen's going to come back to b7, and then we're going to be looking towards g2. So there seems to be quite a bit of counterplay there, and yeah, of course this bishop is not doing very much at all. I might just go c5 to shut it out of play. So just sort of yeah. The whole board turns on its axis, really. And the beautiful thing about this move f4, yeah, blocks the g file, and it looks, really great. Knight's attacking f7 still. You play this move, knight takes b4, and then the idea is that after c takes b4, I now have rook d4, because I've distracted this knight away from the f3 square where it defended d4. So now I can just break through, and obviously, I've got a rook on a half-open file. If the knight moves away, I get my rook into the 7th. It's really dangerous, and I'm already attacking this pawn on c4 as well. So I mean, that's the concept, that basically you're drawing the knight away from g5, and that's weakening the control of d4. So you can play knight b4. And then after queen b4, you've just got this this move knight h5. You're threatening knight takes f4 here remove the support of the knight on g5. And if you go g3, again, I haven't looked at this particularly in detail yet, but I was assuming that we would have a move like c5. Okay, let's embarrass myself and put it on Stockfish, and then we'll see what old Stockfish says. Even e5 he wants. Queen b2 and e5. Yeah, why not? Actually, it's the basic same idea, really. That we've opened up the king side here. After queen b7, for example, we could probably consider knight takes g3 in this position. Which is just completely winning. So, but after queen b7, queen b2, I was thinking of the move c5, to open stuff up. Stockfish even wants the move e5, which is quite stunning. The idea being that if you go, if you just leave it, let me just play some random move. Then we've got e takes f4, and then knight takes f4, and then this one goes. And then we've got this massive attack of the queen down to the king. So what did Leela do? Well, Leela basically, hit the brake and went queen b5 to exchange off the queens. Yeah, and then this is where it gets quite, this is where it gets bizarre, and you start saying, well, a human just can't do this. Because it turns out actually that this is actually quite a bit irritating for white, because the obvious move would be to play something like g3 to protect the pawn on f4 here. But there are lots and lots of tricks, because if you go h6, then I can't go knight f3 because of knight takes f4, but I could go knight to e4. And I'm just safe. But there's this incredible set of tricks that we go knight takes f4 here. Now I don't know whether it's best to do it first or after a preliminary rook d5, but the basic idea is takes. I go h6, h4, f6, and well, easy equality. And obviously, if rook takes f4, you're no longer covering the knight on g5, so rook takes g5. So what that means is that Leela ends up putting its knight back on h3 just to cover this f4 pawn. And then the next round of calculation comes in, because we get this breaking up the queen side. And yeah, when you look at the results of this position, okay, black's a pawn down, but somehow, you know, all of the weaknesses in white's position have been, well, there are holes everywhere. It's not 100% clear yet that black's drawing this, but there are plenty of holes to exploit. And you know, when this move comes in, king d7, then we get ideas of going rook to g8 and then rook to a8 to attack the pawn on a4. Yeah, I mean, Stockfish also very opportunistically takes the chance to get rid of its weak h-pawn, and then, well, you know, 5 against 4, but, you know, there's no real weaknesses in the black structure, and plenty of things that that white's got to defend. But, I mean, I just can't describe how utterly amazing it is, because I think that in order to make this concept work, you really needed to have seen up to here and assessed it properly, you know, which I don't know, from my view, is totally freakish. You know, it's just quite amazing to put together all those different things. You know, there's middle game calculation, there's sharp attacks, there's mini tactics, there's end game evaluation, and it's all put together in order to find this way to reach a draw. You know, it's just it is absolutely outstanding, and it's not that maybe not the most you know, the most spectacular thing that Stockfish has done in the Sufi in terms of, you know, visually, but in terms of complete understanding of the whole board and all the phases of the game. I mean, it's just it is just amazing, you know, really out of this world, this game, this concept. And yeah, I mean, what you see of course is when Leela got the chance to do it, then Leela didn't do it badly, but it just wasn't quite there. And in the same way, and Stockfish just yeah, again played a beautiful game here. So Leela was playing for e5 for a bit of counterplay, and Stockfish stopped that. A bit strange in a way, because I do seem to remember that I thought I saw g5 in Leela's PV. I'm not seeing it here, but I thought I saw g5 in Leela's PV at times, but yeah, somehow it disappeared. But yeah, I mean, looking for e5 first of all and g5, but it's way slower, of course. And this is a very good move. I mean, without the pawn on g7, this rook is active, but with the knight on g5, black's rooks are just passive. And here, you know, basically, Stockfish has just nailed down the position. But the next, you know, again, the next sequence of play is great, really. c6 defends f7. Knight f3, and then we just move in, and the really amazing thing in all this is that, you know, this complete unconcern for doubled rooks on the 7th, you know, and you know, from a human perspective, if I did this with white, I'd be thinking, you know, I've overcooked it, I've completely messed it up. But it turns out that that white, this is the maximum of black's ambitions, and that white can just end up just taking pawns. And you know, and playing for an ending where yeah, well, I've just got so many extra pawns that it's just embarrassing almost. So yeah, I mean, there was just a big contrast, I think, you know, if you see that in terms of you know, but I think this is also a theme of the whole Sufi, really, that you know, Stockfish had that, you know, what I always thought of as neural net panic of, oh my goodness, I'm in danger of slipping into a passive position here. I've got to change the evaluation. I've got to start, you know, making things happen. And you know, Stockfish went in for it with g5, whereas Leela takes a much more sedate course. And okay, well, you know, keep it tight, and we'll survive the storm. And I think in general, if you look at the Sufi, this happened many times. The ones in the early ones in the Czech Benoni are a very good example. And I think that you know, Stockfish's way of defending has been proving, you know, much more successful. And that's really making the difference. But again, you know, the calculation and the understanding required behind it is completely freakish, you know. And yeah, you know, it's yeah, obviously not quite. Leela can't quite do it to the same level. But I mean, Leela defends extremely well. I mean, that's not the point, but it's just that in some ways Stockfish is finding active possibilities for defence that are really just astounding. You know, and I think that's made the biggest difference in the Sufi, I think. So okay, the French winner were. Then we got this Gligorich. Leela's game was not so exciting with White. Stockfish's was. This was a very exciting game. We've already looked at it, and again, this was you know, kind of a situation where Stockfish plays great, really gets a big advantage, but then Leela, you know, defends beautifully and gets some sort of fortress, and then you just think, well, just stay like that and let Stockfish try and get through this pretty tough fortress. But instead, Leela ends up destroying its own position, you know, which might be based on excellent evaluation and seeing that, yeah, I can't keep this position forever. That's possible. But of course, you know, the way that Leela put its pieces was certainly no improvement on this, because the fortress that it went for in the end, you know, fell away like snow on a hot stove. So yeah, you know, you'd really want to say just stay there and then let Stockfish display its genius, but you know, at least make it hard for Stockfish. So that was slightly disappointing, and then afterwards we got these games in this line, which was quite interesting. So d4, oops, let's have a bit more of the board. Knight f6, knight f3, c5, d5, bishop g5, queen b6. I mean, this is one of the lines which I you know, analysed in tremendous depth for myself, to try and get winning chances against, you know, very solid players who played 2 knight f3 on move 2. And yeah, I spent a lot of time on this and found some interesting lines, and I had quite a bit of success with it. However, it is somewhat dodgy, and I've always had very depressing games against my engines when I've played practice games. It's always gone quite badly wrong, you know. So yeah, I was sort of intrigued about it. But what amazed me really was that, you know, considering my experiences with this, that Leela's book exit was well, for me it was actually 0.3. So this one's actually higher. Although strange enough, when Leela had black, it was 0.3. But I really thought that the positions are quite weird. The queen can get chased around. I thought there was a lot of strategic risk in it, so, you know, it might be worth more than a 0.3. Well, I mean, certainly Stockfish played very carefully. I never saw this move, bishop a6. I didn't think of it when I was analysing, and I didn't have it in my test games. But it's quite interesting. I mean, what Stockfish does is it tries to force White to play this move c4, and then, well, a lot of the strategic risk has gone basically when White plays c4, because you can't get a knight into c4 anymore, which is a wonderful square for the knight. And then after that, yeah, it's a question of kind of surviving, really. This is quite bizarre, slightly sexy, you could say, from Leela. It's not great for black, but it's kind of survivable, and Stockfish did that. The next game was quite brutal. I think you'd probably say that this was Leela's probably worst game of the Sufi, unfortunately, because it all went quite wrong, really. Yeah, Leela somehow didn't quite grasp that a lot of things that were happening, like you know, pawn sacrifice on b2 or whatever. Yeah, Leela didn't really grasp how dangerous they were, and then kept changing its mind. But then, you know, it had just made moves that it didn't really want to play before. The funny thing is that I actually ran this position on the new Ethereal, so 13.25, that I've just got yesterday from Andrew Grant. So yeah, very happy to get that, and very happy to support that initiative. I think you know, that yeah, Ethereal's always a really good engine. So yeah, I think it's very good that lovely to support that. But yeah, Ethereal, you know, was thinking I let it run for let me see. Oh, unfortunately I've put this away. Let me just have a quick check. Oh, well, there we are. That's fine. Where's my scratch pad. Lots of interesting games in there that I might analyze at some stage. Yeah, this was, so let me just have a look. Can I get this onto my board? Wait a minute, I'll just copy the game and then try and get it onto Skid. That's probably the easiest. New game, and then edit, paste PGN. No, close. Really weird. Sometimes it's just on the second or third attempt that you I seem to get. Yeah, there we are. Import. So Ethereal actually ran for. I left it running by mistake. So it was ran to 111,851 million nodes. So it ran for quite a while, and it only found plus 0.59 after that big search. Was looking at C3 for a very long time, which looked quite promising, just to stop the Black Queen from getting back, and also threatening moves like Queen A4. That did actually look quite promising, but in the end, it rejected that and played Queen D3, Knight D7, Queen C4, A6, C3 coming in. Rook B1. But I mean, I think you can see that in all these lines, it's really fraught for black. You know, it's completely unclear that this is going to be saved or not. And well, presumably Ethereal feels that this ending in the end is going to turn out all right for black. But it's obviously completely on the limit. But 0.59 is the end evaluation of Ethereal on my home machine after 111,000 million nodes, and at a depth of 54 / 83. So you know, quite significant analysis power in there. So yeah, I mean that was definitely yeah. I mean, I suppose it could have been considered. You know, it was a possibility, although you know it did look incredibly fraught there. Sorry, just getting that out of the way. So yeah, you know, and as the game progressed, it was just one of those games where Leela just didn't have. It just did look really bad. And it's the first game, I think, where you can really say, oh, you know, Leela really just didn't get a grip of this position at all, and this was just really horrible. I think every other game you can, you know, you really saw, you know, it was just, it was, you know, one enormously powerful engine, you know, overpowering another somehow, but with incredible skill. Whereas this was just rather, you know, it's the sort of thing you wonder, wow, you know, if I, on a really good day, you know, maybe even I could have won this one, you know, which is quite yeah, disappointing, and you know, I think you know, from a human perspective, you say undeserved, you know, because I think Leela's played astoundingly this Sufi. So this was a little bit unfortunate. I felt quite bad about it, but a very impressive game from Stockfish. You know, just and yeah, probably, you know, somehow the complexity, yeah, was probably greater than the 0.3 evaluation that Leela had, and yeah, you know, it was so that was one of the games where I bet properly against the engine evals. I've had a few successes and a few non-successes. So yeah, I'll have to see a little bit whether, well, yeah, how I try and do this in the future. Obviously, yeah, it's a bit annoying if you bet wrong and it just ends up being you know, just an even game, that the evals really were 100% correct. But yeah, it's also quite fun because I mean, if you can do it, of course, if you can you know, get a position like this that the engines have maybe evaluated just a little bit too low, then yeah, it's quite nice. You know, it stretches the range of positions that you can consider to throw to Stockfish and Leela. You don't always have to go above 0.45 or 0.5, God forbid, but you can also, you know, play a few more normal openings as well. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. I'm just going to switch back to the game because we've got some excitement here, and yes, we've got some we've got a bit of a divergence here in evaluation, because Stockfish is saying 0.14. So it was quite pessimistic before, but it's gone right down, and Leela's gone right up with 0.76. So who is right here is the big question. So what Stockfish is claiming, Stockfish is, they're both looking, it seems, at, wait a minute, just let me get the correct browser in front of myself. They are both looking at a queen exchange on f5. Ah, that's now disappeared. They were both looking at a queen exchange from f5, but Stockfish was assuming that it would also exchange off the rooks, and then it was claiming that this was just a draw, which, to be honest, I think is a pretty good claim. That does look quite drawn. What is Leela looking at? Wow. Ah, but Leela's moved. Leela's moved now. So presumably it was presumably it was overestimating one of these endings. It's now looking for the quite amazing move b4. My goodness. b4, what would that be? What would that be in aid of? Why on earth would you play b4? Oh, I guess maybe looking for b4, ab, queen f8 check, and queen b4. Maybe. What's Leela looking at here? Let's just lock the PV. Queen f8, so it wants to grab a pawn. Takes. So black has given up its entire queen side. But how easy is it for the queen to escape? The king to escape, rather. Not so easy. Well, Leela's doing a pretty good job of running, but somehow, what a position. Wow. Actually quite surprised that Black's able to give perpetuals here somehow, but yeah, just yeah, dark squares are strong, and yeah, I think the big problem in these type of PV positions is that the black king is pretty safe, so there's no counterplay. So basically, you're always just trying to fight off black's threats, and even if you get a couple of tempi, there's still nothing you can do against the opponent's king. So it's a bit hard, really, to to know quite how to consolidate there. So yeah. I mean, this is going to be quite quite incredible. But yeah, I have to say, if Stockfish holds this opening with black, I don't know really, because it's a pretty, I mean, it really is quite a disgusting one, really, and this is just a very clear advantage for white. So yeah, if Stockfish can create enough mess in order to hold this, then wow, that would be a big one, because I think a little bit worried that a little bit unsure whether Leela's going to hold this as black, really. So yeah, really really quite scared for Leela here. Yeah, I mean, Leela looking for this line where it's grabbing the h6 pawn, but yeah, I mean, it's more or less impossible that Stockfish hasn't got a good reply to this. So yeah. My goodness. So yeah, crazy. It's very very good defense again from Stockfish. Just I mean, it was quite a, again, it was a very typical Stockfish defense. We've seen this quite a lot when d5, e6 takes, and then just queen f6, which is crazy, really. I mean, just giving up a pawn like that. It's yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking back, one of the things about Stockfish 8, I remember from all those good old days, is that it had this weird tendency to sack a piece for 2 pawns and then claim that it was perfectly fine. Yeah, I mean, I think various versions of Stockfish. I mean, Stockfish Classical was also often just sacking pawns, and I really couldn't understand at all why on earth I wasn't, why on earth, where my compensation was supposed to be. I mean, it's fine if Stockfish plays it, but I'm supposed to be playing the slide in my games, and I just didn't have I couldn't understand at all, what Stockfish was going on about. And then obviously you just don't play the lines, but it was. Yeah, I mean, in this Sufi, we've seen so many sacrifices like this for activity, and again, I doubt this is something that I would want to follow or could even hope to emulate, because I think the precision that you need in order to keep your counterplay going when you've really got, when your compensation in principle is pretty poor. Yeah, I mean, this is probably just way in excess of what I could do. So a lot of this stuff, a lot of this edge of the seat defensive stuff is not really reproducible. Some of the exchange sacrifices are. I mean, those were quite strategical, and you could understand and how they were, and yeah, I mean, it also fits your understanding of what Petrojan did and all that. So those were quite. Those you saw the exchange sacrifice. You thought, yeah, if I thought about it now, maybe inspired by this model of Stockfish, I could do it. But these sort of pawn sacrifices, yeah, it's just it's asking too much from you, I think, to really play these. It's the sort of thing you do in a blitz game, but a long play game, yeah, that would be really, really difficult. I just saw something from Alorel, actually. So he was talking about the percentages of decisive games. Where was it? 45%. 45% decisive openings, opening pairs, basically. It's going to be so far, because we've got 22 so far. I think 11 each. Yeah, 11 each. And well, this one could make it 23. So yeah, I mean. That's pretty good going, I think. Really, it's yeah. I mean, I don't think that. Thanks very much, Laurel. That's really nice to see that. And yeah, okay, still maybe one more to go. You never know. But yeah, I don't think the openings have been really that extreme, to be honest. Yeah, I mean, there's a few. I mean, obviously the symmetrical English, the Julian Hodgson sack line was pretty extreme, and like that. But I think a lot of the openings have still been fairly normal, but we've just been having yeah, quite close games, and yeah, and quite, in a way, you say sort of grandmasterly victories where one side just outplays the other, rather than just having a huge advantage right out of the opening. So yeah, I'm pretty positive about that. Yeah, of course, I don't know if it was two Stockfishes playing against each other, or essentially if Leela was at within 5 elo, of Stockfish's strength, presumably we would have got a lot more draws, maybe. That's quite possible. But yeah, I mean, obviously some imbalance between the engines' playing strength does actually help to create decisive results. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, yeah, this is a very clear and convincing result, and 19-7. But still, I mean, we're talking about 40 elo difference on the 3,600 elos, so it's the strength of these machines is still relatively close. So yeah, I think yeah, so I think we were just yeah, we seem to get some just some pretty good openings where yeah, where both sides could show their skills. But obviously there's also a fair amount of luck involved in that, because there were some openings that I thought we're not going to lead anywhere, and they just ended up producing wins, and some which I was convinced were going to work, like the McCutcheon French late in the match. I was convinced this was going to be really big attacking games and lots of fun, and it just ended up that Stockfish and Leela both wanted to exchange off queens and play some sort of queenless middle game, which with a hugely inflated eval, so yeah, really strange how it goes, but quite a bit of luck involved. But anyway, if the result's good and everyone's enjoyed it, then that's that's obviously the most important thing, and then you'll just accept the gift of luck and be happy that it turned out well. Yeah, that was pretty cool, really. I was very happy about that. Yeah, 22 decisive openings, 44 games, 45% of all games. Yeah, brilliant. It's no, excellent. So yeah, we'll have to see whether we can emulate or improve in a subsequent Sufi. Yeah, I had a list of I think Jeroen's already almost all the way to getting a new set of openings, but I'm having a look for I had a set of openings of 55 openings, new openings that I thought were promising candidates for the Sufi. Yeah, I don't know. I've looked at them and I've been running test matches, and yeah, I'm not sure. I think maybe I need to bump up the exit evals. I think I've maybe got too many grandmasterly ones, that run the risk of petering out. So yeah, I think a bit more work for me is required there. I truly don't know how Jeroen managed to do 50 or for so many seasons. It's really yeah, just way above what I could do. But 25 is just about manageable, I think. So we'll see. I've got some nice ones in there, but I think I need some more things. But I got a fresh batch of opening books recently, so let's hope they've got plenty of interesting stuff in there. It's and yeah, I'm going to have another look through all my own analysis and just see whether we've got some more good lines. Yeah, it's just kind of shocked that the Sufi is ending, actually. Just it seems to have gone so quickly somehow, but it's been 99 games in 3 weeks, so it hasn't really. But yeah, sorry that it's ending. It's always a really great event. I really do love that. Ooh, Rook G1 check. Look at that. That's a nice little beauty there. So obviously after King G1, Queen G3 check, the pawn on F2 is pinned to the Queen. So Bishop G2, Queen G4, and then of course sort of say, how does Stockfish possibly know that this is just going to be a draw? Because certainly this line just looks winning for White to me. But seems like we just can't get properly free here, and all that White's got is a draw. Oh yeah, this is a very nice battery along this diagonal. Stops E5, stops H8. Lovely. So it looks like Stockfish is going to hold its final black there, and okay, then it's up to Leela to save its honor. And yeah, Laurel, it's yeah, maybe we should do that 1,000 game match of that Cam Chess suggested, but I'm not. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe 1,000 would be a little bit too much. It's I don't know. I mean, I do like all the different events, to be honest. I really do love it, and I know the cup's not maybe not super popular with everyone, but I do like it. I do like the opening rounds when the engines play against the strongest engines play against the weaker ones. I think you get a lot of nice instructive games that way, and yeah, grinds that you can't see between Leela and Stockfish. You see happening, and I do like that a lot. And yeah, and the Swiss was quite nice, really. It's I was sort of wondering. I mean, I did think about for the Swiss that I was wondering about having the double round. Really, I just sort of thought, it's sort of in human chess, it's just the luck of the draw. Whether you get your opponent with white or black. So, in the Swiss, why not make it a bit of luck? Whether you get a good opening or a bad opening against people, and could even have more rounds, but just leave it random because I don't know. I mean, stuff like we have the or longer time control. That's also possible as well. As long as we get some good patches for opposite color bishop endings, I think that's then I'm happy with a longer time control. But shorter with if that sort of disappeared, I think then probably that would be absolutely very good to do. But also, I mean, just in terms of the cup and the Swiss, I always, I sort of feel that we've got the whole super final to determine the best engine, and then from my perspective, the cup and the Swiss could easily be a bit more random, and I wouldn't really mind, if the best engine doesn't end up winning it because of some weird things with the pairings or the openings or whatever, then I don't really mind too much. You've got the super final to really get the best engine of that season out, and then the other competitions some other competitions are a bit more random. I don't and then because you've got Fisher Random as well, which is obviously again very serious competition to determine the best. We really want to determine the very best Fisher Random engine. I mean, that's great as well, but just a bit of a mix. Would not be so crazy either, I think. But I mean, always just happy basically whatever you get, because when you think you're getting all this and great chat as well, of course, all for free, and just from the comfort of your own home, it is really really quite amazing. So very very. Happy. Oh, Mr. Bees, you think that the Swiss is already random enough? I don't know. I want it. I wouldn't mind it more random, but but I mean, I understand all points of view, so it's not not a complaint or anything like that. But again, I wouldn't mind too much if I don't mind too much if the best engine doesn't win all the competitions. I think that's the point. Quite happy for a bit of randomness in the tournament format to provide provide an upset from time to time seems fine to me. But it's the Sufi finishing like this always always a bit of a sad moment, but you do get an awful lot of time back, I have to say. So and I'm just starting work again after a few weeks holiday, so which I've spent only looking at the Sufi, so I am going to get quite a bit of time in my life back. So that's maybe and also maybe just a little bit more free brain power for everything else. So but this is a 0-0. Our Leela's basically found the pretty much the same line now, so this is going to be quite quick. Yes, true. Dragon 1, Swiss 1. That is absolutely true. So that was a bit of a surprise as well. It's but there's also, I guess, I mean, are we going to continue with the infra final? Actually, just thinking about it, are we going to finish with KD? Not the infra final. Sorry, the bonus were KD against Ceres, because that was also quite interesting, and we'll also be intrigued to see what Komodo and Ceres make of the Sufi openings. It's so many interesting things to be done. I'm looking forward very much to Fisher Random this time, because Napsa said that Leela's got a proper net now, really trained on FRC games, so that should be really interesting. Obviously, Komodo's normally pretty strong. We've got Ethereal that has got its special FRC net as well. Not quite sure. I don't know whether there's been improvements in that, or whether all the improvements are in standard play. But obviously that's that's quite interesting as well. and yeah, I think could be a really good competition as well. So looking forward to that. I get I go very up and down on FRC, whether I like it or not. But I've had periods of being, wow, this is perfect. This is really what I want to do. I'm going to spend lots of time on it, and other times when I just oh. But I did think that that the but both engines updated. Oh, great, Laurel. Thanks very much. Oh, that's going to be great. I'm really interested in that. It's good also to keep nice to keep a check of how Komodo's progressing as well. That's because it was pretty impressive in DivP. It was really a really good strong engine really. So and did pretty well against Leela as well. So yeah, interesting then to see it against Ceres. So yeah, Ceres, it's just like Stockfish and NUE a few seasons ago that just always wanted to see it as a kibitzer or in tournaments, in bonuses or whatever. And well, now look at it, it's just stomping through the Sufi. So yeah, and also yeah, now with the Sufi ending, I've also got to stop making jokes about Mr. B's hoovering. So that's also going to be a bit of a something that you really have to get accustomed to. Have to stop myself from typing Hoover every time I see Mr. Bede's name popping up. It's become a bit of a Pavlovian reaction, really. Just but yeah, I hope that was all fine and that it didn't cause you too much mental stress and all that. And yeah, we'll stop it now after the Sufi. But of course, next Sufi, it all starts again. But we'll have to think maybe of new things for Mr. Bedes to do. But maybe everything's different and improved, and maybe Leela will win a Sufi again next season. Who knows? So okay, well, I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to end the stream here. Yeah, last Sufi stream. So thanks very much indeed, everyone, for all the chat, for all the nice comments and all the encouragement. Hope it, yeah, I hope this added, somehow to the Sufi. I very much enjoyed doing it, and I think talking about the games like this helped me get a grip of the games much better. So I hope it helped all you as well. And well, I mean, I'll probably try and do some more streams on some events at some time. And yeah, or if there's something interesting going on, then might just stream like that. So yeah, again, thanks very much indeed, everyone. And yeah, keep well, keep safe, and see you in the chat.